Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to the Reconstructing History podcast. As you're aware, this is Kass and this is Bob. And it's been, 2 weeks? We missed last week?
We skipped a week.
And that's why that's the reason why we skipped a week is also the reason why we have no news. It was about 9 million degrees here.
Yeah, it was really hot.
Until,
It was
2
really
days
hot.
ago?
Yeah, and honestly, we kept working.
Yep.
But nothing new happened.
Yeah, because we kind of got up, checked orders, checked emails, did that, and then
printed and shipped everything while it was still relatively cool, and then did nothing else.
Oh,
so
yeah,
there are no new patterns. There are no plans.
Nope. No, nothing. We barely spoke 2 words to each other the whole time.
Yeah.
But that's broken.
Yes.
It's a beautiful day today.
Yes, lovely
and,
blue skies.
Lovely blue skies. Matter of fact, when we're finished here, we're going to go and get out and get a nice long walk through the woods.
Yes, because it's going to get god-awful hot again.
Shh, shut up.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
So, being that there's no news,
Yes.
let's talk about
Linen.
linen. We talked about silk. We talked about wool. Now it's time to talk about that
linen.
other main category of reenactment and historical clothing material, linen.
And coincidentally, I am wearing linen today.
It's very, very coral.
Yeah, that's not coral. Have you ever seen coral that color?
Well,
Okay, you have.
And usually you yell at me when I call it pink.
It's fuchsia.
Fuchsia. Okay.
Fuchsia. Yeah, if you've ever seen fuchsias, it is exactly the color of fuchsias.
So what's the big difference between linen, silk, and wool?
Okay, huge big difference is that silk and wool are animal fibers and linen is a plant.
I see.
Right. So linen is a plant, and it is a type of fiber called a bast fiber.
Okay.
Now, if you think about cotton, if you've ever seen a cotton plant, it's a stalk, and then it has like a little ball of cotton.
Yeah, cotton ball.
Sitting at the top. Yeah.
BOLL, right? Yes.
Yeah. And the fiber is that ball.
Yeah. Okay.
But linen, the fiber isn't anything that comes off the top of the plant. The fiber is the stalk of the plant.
From the stem.
Right. So that's what we call a bast fiber.
Okay.
And bast fiber, it's not just linen. Linen comes from the flax plant, although linen can come from other plants too. We'll get to that in a second. Bast fibers, there's a lot of different bast fibers. Jute, hemp, flax, nettle, bunch of different bast fibers. I'm blanking on some of them. But anyway.
If you know more, comments.
Yeah. There's, we talked about banana. If you get stuff that's made out of banana, that's a bast fiber.
Bamboo?
I don't know. I honestly don't know where the fiber, when you have bamboo clothing made from bamboo, where that comes from. It makes sense that it would be a bast fiber because it's a grass. Bamboo is a grass.
If you know, put it in the comments.
Because
let us know.
Bamboo is a grass.
Okay, yeah.
And that would make sense.
Because that's becoming more and more popular for clothing these days, sustainable clothing.
Yeah, supposedly it has an antibacterial property, not unlike merino as well. So that's good. But anyway, getting back to the bast fibers. So bast fibers are typically tall.
Right.
Plants. Jute plants are like 2 meters tall at least.
And so are hemp plants.
Are hemp 2 meters tall? Did they get 2 meters tall?
Remember when we were driving last year?
Yeah,
or
I
year
thought they were
before?
only a meter.
No. They get tall as maize.
Oh, okay. But anyway, if you want to weave out of corn fiber, maize would also be a bast fiber.
Oh, the stalks.
Because that's what a bast fiber is.
Right.
So that's the bast fiber, and in order to release that bast fiber, basically you use a process called retting, and to ret is just another form of the verb to rot. What you're doing is you're rotting all of the green vegetable matter off of the stalk.
Right.
And this is typically done in fields where you let everything you cut it at harvest and then you let it lay in the field until
it rots. Enough to get those long bast fibers out.
Or they used to tie all the bast fibers together and put them in a stream.
The stalks,
Yeah, because that will work faster.
Right.
But it pollutes the stream.
Right.
So that's not good. But anyway, so bast fibers, the green has to rot off of them.
Right, I see.
And then you have something that looks not unlike straw.
Right.
And then you have to break that because that woodsy outer
Yeah, you
covering.
can't have that.
You can't have that. So you break it on a flax break, which looks like, one of those paper cutters?
Yeah,
that goes like
yeah.
that, except it's all wood.
The thumb remover.
The
we
thumb
used to call
remover,
that.
like we used to call it the ginsu.
Yeah.
Ginsu. But it has a thing like this,
Yeah.
but it's a piece of wood and it's not sharp.
I see.
So it doesn't cut anything. It just hits the
And crushes that hard outer crusty
and then
stuff.
you can pick it off.
Right.
And then you've got fiber
Right.
inside, and the fiber looks not unlike the ponytail of an older woman who was blonde in her youth.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So it doesn't look like my ponytail, because my ponytail will look black and gray.
Right.
But the ponytail
Salt
of
and pepper,
yeah,
I think is what they say.
the ponytail of a blonde, that's what flaxen haired. Flaxen haired means
see.
it's the color of flax and the
Now
color
it
of flax.
Now it all makes sense.
And it
It's that
does.
silvery blonde.
Yeah, and it does depend on the flax plant or how it's grown or even how it's retted.
Right.
You can get a more grayer flax and a more blonder flax,
I see.
depending on different things. Interesting thing is that it is almost impossible to tell the difference between linen made from flax and linen made from hemp. Even though they aren't related plant,
Right.
they aren't related at all. They're not in the same genus
Right.
or anything like that. But the difference is, like, you can look at it under a microscope and still not see the difference in the fiber.
The fibers are just
like you need an
fibers.
electron microscope, or you'd have to do a genetic test,
I see.
which is wild. So a lot of linen cloth that is sold is not flax linen.
Okay.
It's hemp linen.
Huh.
Hemp is a coarser fabric,
Right.
but we don't use linen. We don't use fine linen anymore.
Right.
So, like, I mean, trust me, guys, go and try to find linen that's finer than 3 ounce. If you find linen that's finer than 3 ounce that isn't, like cheesecloth,
Don't put it in the comments. Email directly, info@reconstructinghistory.com,
Yeah.
and we'll keep it to
yeah,
ourselves.
it's really hard modernly to find linen that's finer than 3 ounces.
Yeah. That's a
because-
shame too, but
It is a shame, but there's no application. We don't make fine linen.
of course there's an application.
you
My ruff,
want fine linen.
my ruffs, my falling collars, my cuffs.
Yeah.
I want to drip with fine lawn
Yeah.
and lace.
Yeah, and since we started making lawn out of cotton rather
Right.
than linen, you stopped growing the really fine
Yeah,
linen.
which is a shame.
So, but there's nothing wrong with wearing hemp linen. Because you see, linen is a fabric designation,
Right.
more than it is like you
Doesn't need to be flax
Yeah.
to be linen.
yeah. And I wanted to point out that the German word for linen, you say it,
Lina.
Lina.
Because you said it's Liene, yeah?
Yeah,
In
it's-
German, if whatever vowel, when there's an IE combination,
yeah.
whatever vowel comes second.
Yeah, okay.
is-
There, is
I know one thing about languages compared to the millions of things you know. One thing!
I'll just sit
go
here
ahead.
while you
No, go ahead.
demonstrate your incredible ability. Anyway, it's spelled the same as the Irish word lena,
Right.
which actually has a
Fada, right?
fada over the first E. But for years, when I was first studying the lena, people would say, oh, because it's the Irish word for linen, and it isn't the Irish word for linen.
Right.
It isn't the Irish. It has no relationships to the word for linen.
So it's sheer coincidence.
Yeah, it's the Irish word for shirt.
Right.
And I guess you can extrapolate shirts antiquely were made out of linen, and it has something. But it isn't the Irish word for linen. The Irish word for linen is lin, I think. Not sure, but it's not. It has nothing to do with the German word. And the Irish word for lena, for shirt, existed before contact with Germanic peoples.
Right.
So
and
we
the,
have
and
that.
the German word for shirt is hemd,
Yeah.
so not related at all.
No, not related at all. So it's entirely a coincidence. I mean, it's 5 letters and 4 of them are the same.
Yeah.
The probability of it being the same thing. So for years and years and years, I fought this uphill battle of people saying, "Oh, Lena means linen," and no, Lena doesn't mean linen. Lena means shirt.
Yeah.
In Irish. And it never meant linen.
Right.
Because they're in the ancient tales, they talk about silk lenta
Right.
and wool lenta.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to disabuse people of the notion, if you speak a Germanic language and you go, oh, it's the same word in Irish. It's not the same word in Irish. It's spelled the same. And technically it's not spelled the same because there's a fada over the first
Right,
one.
right.
Fada is an accent.
Yeah.
Yeah. A cute accent.
Yeah.
So, where was I?
We had got to putting the plant matter in the flax break.
No, we broke it and then we peeled off all the stuff and then we had fiber.
Okay, what isn't the next bit those wicked looking metal spiky things?
Oh yeah, that's to get the woody things.
Right.
Yeah,
okay, because those are wild looking.
Yeah, they look like. I had one, and one of my friends was like, "Do you have a pillow for a bed of nails for some reason?"
They're ridiculous looking things. Oh, by the way, we'll put a link to, if I can find one, we'll put a link to the process of from plant to thread.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah, we used to do it at Pensbury Manor. We
Yeah.
do a couple times a year. We do the whole process, but yeah, it's kind of cool. It's very intensive.
It is.
But anyway, the point being that linen is a very long fiber. Where you're
Right.
talking about cotton is really short.
Right.
And silk is really long. If you have thrown or reeled silk,
Right.
is
Very long.
You just unravel the
cocoon, yeah.
And the worm has done it already.
Right, right.
You know, you don't have to spin anything.
You're just putting it on a different form. Yeah.
Yeah, but spun silk, which is what most silk on the market is the silk waste that's left over, the broken silk after
Right.
the silk moth has emerged.
Right.
The broken silk of the cocoon, and you
Right.
spin that together. It's still silk. It's
Right.
still beautiful, but that's why you get like de peony
The
and
stuff with
shantung that
slubs.
have slubs in
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
That
Okay.
so there you go. And why you have some silk that tears very easily and other silk that is really strong. The thrown or reeled silk is really strong because those fibers can be a mile long,
Yeah.
seriously. And the spun silk
Is not so strong.
is shorter fibers because it's broken fibers.
Right.
So silk is really long, and wool. I mean, I think merino is only like about a couple centimeters long.
Right.
But then there are other breeds of sheep and goat. I mean, that's not really wool, but
See our wool video.
see our wool video up here. Why goat isn't wool? That will have like 10 centimeter long
Right.
fibers. So, different fiber lengths. So linen is typically like a meter long.
Right.
Now, modernly, we don't process linen the way we should process linen.
Right.
We process linen on cotton processing
Right,
machines.
yeah, you've
so
often
it
mentioned
chops
this.
it up.
Yeah,
and then spins it back together, which makes it a shorter fiber.
I don't understand the point of that.
Well, the reason is that it's very difficult to produce linen fabric on an industrial scale.
I see. It's more of a cottage industry.
It's more of a cottage industry. So when you have the equipment and you just go, oh, if we chop this up, we can use that equipment, and then no humans have to get involved, and you can do it quickly.
Yeah.
Then it's more
quickly
cheap.
and less expensively.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So linen is a long fiber, and linen is a vegetable fiber.
Right.
And you can abuse it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what does this information mean for us practically speaking? Like, what do we do to it before? What can we or do we have to do to it before we can put scissors to it and then put needle and thread to it?
Well, I should mention that linen that's available commercially typically has some kind of finish on it, some kind of sizing, which is starch or some other kind of sizing that makes it shiny and flat and everything. Because, I mean, look at me. I'm wearing linen and I'm wrinkled as hell.
Yeah, that just came out of the dryer like yesterday.
And I shook it.
Immediately went on a hanger.
Yeah, and I shook it so that the collar, I mean, I didn't iron it because it was freaking hot and who cared?
Yeah.
And no one was going to see me in it. And now you are.
Yeah.
But so linen, what was I saying?
We were saying about abusing it.
Oh, yes. Linen comes with sizing. And if you want your linen to always have that shiny, look to it,
Right.
that shiny finished look, then you can't ever wash it
Right.
because that does wash away.
Yeah.
But get over it.
Yeah. I mean, because you should be washing it before you make anything out of it anyway, right?
Yes.
You should be abusing the piss out of it.
And linen will shrink. And the amount that linen shrinks, I mean, some places that make their own linen will put like, this has a 3% shrinkage. We'll put the shrinkage rate on it, but most of the time you don't know.
Right.
It tends to not shrink as much as wool does.
Okay.
But if you have an open, and if you have an open weave linen, it tends to not
Full or
well, it does. It can't fall because
Right.
it's not hair.
right.
But it doesn't shrink up. Like when you have wool that has an open weave and you abuse it so that it shrinks, all those holes in the weave draw together and then you get a smaller piece of wool. Whereas linen, if you have an open weave linen and you abuse it, it shrinks a little bit, but it doesn't close up all those
Right, I
spaces
see, okay.
because it's a different kind of fiber.
Right.
So if you want to make something out of linen, what you really want to do is put it in the washing machine on hot, hot, hot.
Mm-hmm.
You can use any kind of detergent for it. You don't have to use anything special because it's not hair. You're
Right.
not going to damage it by using regular detergent.
Bleach.
You can bleach it. I mean, obviously, if you bleach colors, the color will come out.
Right.
But
You know.
but if you have like a lot of times you can buy natural linen, and natural linen isn't the off-white that we're no. It is really natural.
Oh,
linen.
is it?
Yeah,
I
it is
thought
really
I
natural
thought it just
linen.
meant unbleached.
Well, it does mean unbleached, but it's also natural. Like I have a bolt of
It's like saying plant-based mashed potatoes. Of course, it's natural linen.
natural colored.
right.
Means unbleached.
That's
I
what
have.
that's what I was questioning. Like,
Yeah, okay. I have a bolt of unbleached linen
Okay.
upstairs, and every time I cut a piece, because I use it for linings and interfacings
Yeah.
and stuff like that, every time I cut a piece, it smells like you cut the grass
That's cool.
because it hasn't been chemically treated at all.
Wow. Okay.
And if you want it to be white,
Mm-hmm.
you put it in the washer with some chlorine bleach,
Yeah.
and it comes white. Now, linen will never come stark white. Linen,
Right.
if you want stark white linen, and why would you? Because that's not the color of linen. You should buy optic white or dyed white.
Yeah,
is
'cause-
generally what they call it.
Oh, because
But-
they actually dye it.
They
to get it
actually
that-
dye it
Wow.
white. Yeah, because I mean, I've tried it. You can swim the stuff in nothing but 100% chlorine
Right.
bleach, and it will only go so far.
It'll still come out slightly
It
ivory.
comes out slightly ivory, and this is one of the things. It's kind of funny when I made my drawn work jacket,
Oh,
which
yeah, yeah.
we'll put a picture
Yeah, yeah.
of you and me, you slurping up my face or something when I'm wearing the drawn work jacket, and I put lace on the edges.
Right.
And of course, I don't make lace.
Right.
But I bought lace that
Oh,
that
yes.
looked the part.
Yeah.
And it was made out of cotton.
Right.
And the lace is bright, almost bluish white, and the linen
Is not.
is slightly yellowish. So it looks like the linen is dingy. The linen's not dingy, it's
Right.
linen. So, but there are places online where you can buy linen lace.
Yeah.
So if you're going to make a linen thing and you want to put lace on it because you're 17th century whore like we are, buy linen lace.
Yeah. Why not?
That's it. You know,
So when you first before you cut it, abuse it.
Abuse
put
it.
it through the washing machine on hot with bleach if you want. All that.
Throw
sort
it
of
in the
thing.
dryer.
On hot.
throw it in the dryer on hot
Oh, before we get there.
before we put it in.
Before we put it in the washing machine,
Yeah.
when you cut your yard goods, like if you have how many yards, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it a good idea to take the raw ends and stitch them
Oh
together?
yeah, yeah. What you can do because linen ravels
Like whoa.
like whoa, and what you can do is take the two ends of your strip of linen and sew them to each other with
Right.
a sewing machine. Mm-hmm. And I say a sewing machine because if I sew them together by hand, I would just baste it, and that's not tight enough.
Right.
So sew it together with a nice tight stitch,
Right.
many stitches per inch, and sew the two ends together. And then when it unravels in the wash, it will only go to that
It'll
line.
stop it where
Yeah.
the stitching is.
Yeah,
Right.
and then when you need to use it, you just cut that
Cut
row
the-
of stitching out,
right.
and you're good. Because it will ravel
Like,
terribly.
whoa.
And this is another point. When you make something out of it, always finish the edges.
Right.
On all the
We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Well, we
Oh,
can do it now.
okay.
All the extant garments that I have ever seen that are made out of linen, the seams are either flat felled, or they roll a very, very, very tiniest hem, and then whip stitch
The pieces to the
or
piece.
or needle
thread.
lace
Yeah, needle lace. Okay.
the pieces together. So if you make something out of linen and you don't finish the edges, you don't finish the raw
Mm-hmm.
seams, you're going to throw the thing in the washer and it's going to eventually
apart.
fall apart.
Yeah.
So don't do that. You
Yeah,
know,
I had a pair of slops, the made of hemp canvas.
yeah, and I didn't make them.
Yeah, I'm not saying you made them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we had a test pair run up, and I thought, oh, these are great.
Yeah, and they just put like big seam allowances on them.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter because when you washed them a couple of times, they disintegrated.
And that's canvas. So you try like a fine linen shirt. So did they never historically? Did they never French seam anything?
Did they never?
Well, I mean,
have we seen everything in the world? I don't know.
Okay.
French seaming, I wouldn't. French seaming here in Europe, they call it English seaming, which is so confusing. I don't know what a French seam means here, but when you want a French seam, you ask for an English seam. I don't know that. I have never personally seen or read about a linen thing that had what we call French seams.
Okay.
I've only heard or seen flat-felled seams or, hems.
Okay.
Or
just
overcast. Overcast. So, but in any case, you can do anything you want with it. Just
as long as
treat your seams.
As long as the raw edges are enclosed in some way.
Because if you think you're going to run something up for the event this weekend, unless you are running something up that you intend to throw away, and don't do that because it's bad for the environment, just finish your seams.
Yeah.
Finish your seams.
Yeah. It doesn't take that much.
It gives so much more life to your garment, and you're already spending so much time making this stuff. So just finish your seams. So it's always a good idea.
So we've washed it.
Yeah.
We've enclosed that seam.
Yep. Something that you should realize. Well, number one, okay, so you put it in the dryer and you take it out of the dryer and it's a ball like this big and it's completely wrinkled and ridiculous. Something you can do is take it out of the dryer when it's still slightly damp.
Right.
On some dryers, there's a setting that says dry for ironing rather than dry for storage, is what ours says in Dutch and French.
Yeah. We have a Belgian dryer.
We have a Belgian dryer. So if you take it out slightly damp and then iron it, that gets rid of your wrinkles. Now, linen's going to wrinkle.
Yeah.
Linen is always going to wrinkle. You can iron it until it's beautiful, and then you're going to pick it up off the ironing board and it will wrinkle.
Yeah.
I used to never iron my linen stuff because linen is your underwear and your ruff. I mean, of course,
Well, once it's made up, what's the point of ironing it?
Yeah, I mean, your falling collars and your ruffs and stuff like that, you iron because they have to be nice and flat. And I never used to iron my coif because I put it on my head, and then the beautiful thing about linen is when it warms to body temperature, it changes. It's like it stretches.
Oh, yeah.
So I would pull my coif out of the wash, and it would be all crinkled up, and I would shake it a couple times, and then I would stick it on my head and tie it down.
Right.
And by the time I got dressed the rest of the way, it was flat.
Right.
It was wrinkleless. But iron your small stuff. But shirts. Okay, the collar.
I think we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves here, though.
No, we're not though.
Okay.
Because I'm just going to be done. But I mean, shirts, cuffs and collars and stuff like that. But don't spend hours ironing everything because ultimately it's underwear.
Right.
And no one's going to see it. And if you pulled it out of the dryer, and just hung it up or laid it flat or threw it over a rod or
gap fold
a
it
rail,
even.
I wouldn't gap fold it. If it's damp.
Oh, yeah.
Throw it over a banister or something.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like crinkled up like if you put it in the dryer and left it get bone dry. So there's that. And I'll sometimes iron stuff and then put them in the wardrobe, but then I won't iron them when I take them back out of the wardrobe, and they will get wrinkly hanging in the wardrobe. Linen wrinkles. So what?
That's what happens.
Guess what? Historically, linen wrinkles. One of the things that will happen to linen, though, when you wash it is because of the way linen is, the bast fiber, you'll have the grain will get twisted.
Right, yeah.
So when you take it out of the washing machine, when you take it out of the dryer, one of the things you'll want to do with it, and one of the other reasons why you want to take it out of the dryer while it's a little damp, is because the grain will get twisty, and you want the grain to be 90 degrees.
Right, absolutely perpendicular to each other.
So what you need to do is pull it out of the dryer while it's a little damp and tug it, basically tug it.
Like grab selvage and tug,
and
tug,
it,
or
twist
yeah,
it,
till
twist
it comes.
twist it until everything
square.
comes
Yeah.
90 degrees, because that's important.
Yeah.
Having a twisted grain, you're going to cut things, and then things will be off the grain.
Yeah, and you don't want that.
And you don't want that. But linen typically has a very, very pronounced grain, so you don't
Right.
even have to put on, magnifying glasses to
Right.
see exactly where the grain is.
And don't you have a technique where you can cut a perfectly straight line?
Yes, I do. If you work a lot with cotton or silk, you might be used to, you snip the edge and then you tear it across, and it
Right.
tears across perfectly,
Yeah.
a perfectly straight line. You can do this with linen, but I wouldn't, because when you do that with linen, you twist the grain and then you have to go straighten the grain, and then the edges are fuzzy and it's awful. So a better thing to do is, because of its prominent grain, lay your linen out and pick out a weft thread. The weft threads are the ones that go from selvage to selvage.
Okay.
So this is the thread that if it's on a loom, that's where you threw the shuttle.
Yeah.
That's the linen that was on the shuttle. So choose a weft thread and get a pin or a needle and pick one thread
Okay.
out of the weave. So with your pin, just lift it out of the weave and then pull it, and it'll gather up
Right.
everything, and then break it.
Okay.
And then
pull it out entirely.
Pick that thread. It takes a little bit of doing.
Yeah.
But pick that thread entirely out.
Okay.
So then you'll have like a trough.
Oh yeah.
You'll have an empty space, and it'll
Yeah.
be, even in really fine linen, it's very obvious where
Right.
where the empty row is. And then you could take your nice sharp scissors and you can cut right along that ridge.
Huh.
And then, because I do this for when I have to make ruffs for you,
Right.
or falling collars, and you want them to be perfect rectangles.
Yes.
I do the top and the bottom,
Right.
because you want them to be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
perfectly, and it makes perfectly on grain and perfectly straight. So it takes a little bit of time to go through with the pin.
yeah.
But if
you need it to be perfectly square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and it's a good idea, because that also makes it easier for you to straighten the grain.
Right.
Because this is the perfect bottom.
Yeah.
So, and when you get fabric from a fabric store, they just cut it,
Yeah.
and oftentimes
Any which way.
they just go and
Yeah.
and sometimes you go, it's like
Yeah.
half a meter longer on this end than it was on
Yeah.
that end. What else? So if you have washed it on hot and dried it and
On
all this
hot.
kind of stuff,
Abused it.
yep.
Right.
And now anything you make out of it, you can throw in the washing machine on
Right.
hot.
Yeah.
And historically, when you washed linen with very, very, very caustic
Lye.
soap. Lye
soap.
Yeah,
We used to. Cass mentioned Pensbury Manor
Yeah.
earlier. There was a couple of things we did down there where we had washing day, and we made soap
Yep.
as part of the demonstration for washing day with the wood ash lye
Yeah.
and animal fat.
Yeah,
and it
it's-
works like a champ to get things
Oh,
clean, but it chaps burns your
it
hands,
stinks.
and it's caustic.
It stinks and it's caustic, but the dual purpose of getting rid of all the bodily fluids that are on your linen, and it also kind of bleaches it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, well, it's
So-
the same principle as chlorine bleach.
Yeah.
Or using chlorine bleach it's caustic, which means that it will dissolve organic solids. So
Which
yeah.
is why you use it to clean up after a murder.
So
Same reason.
yeah, so you boil the shit out of your
Yeah.
linen.
Yeah.
You can beat it up. You don't need to iron your underwear.
No.
But you can iron it. It's a problem. You probably should iron it before you go cutting things out of it, because you need it to be square. You
Yep.
need those threads to be square in order to cut straight lines. What else?
Oh, one of the things that I wanted to say, and if you've abused it in the fabric,
Right.
in the cloth, then you can do the same thing when you wash your stuff.
Right.
And also, if you put on linen, when you pull your blue jeans out of the dryer,
Yeah.
and you go, oh my God, I must have gained weight because they're tight, and then you walk around for an hour and they're not tight anymore.
me this morning.
Yeah. But you don't walk around for an hour and then they're not tight anymore.
No, I walk around for an hour and...
Yeah, but the same reason that blue jeans stretch out when you wear them, linen clothing also stretches out when you wear it. So if you put on something and go, oh, this is a little tight, it did shrink in the wash.
Right.
Well, it probably shrunk in the dryer, but when it gets to your body temperature, it stretches again.
Isn't that a property of natural fibers, though? Like wool does the same thing to a greater or lesser extent.
Well, yeah, but
depending on the weave, I guess.
Well, it depends on if you've shrunk it. If it's been pre-shrunk and it won't shrink anymore.
Right.
But if you put wool in the washing machine and it shrinks, it's not getting back to the old.
I meant warming up.
Oh, yeah. It
That's
will
what I
warm
wasn't
up.
talking about.
Yeah.
Processing, there's the video up here for how to deal with wool. But I meant just from wearing it and it warms up and it starts to fit more loosely.
Yeah. Typically that's clothes.
Right. Okay.
I mean, possibly not polyester clothes, but I don't know much about unnatural fibers.
Except rayon.
Rayon isn't an unnatural fiber.
Well, it's processed in an unnatural way.
Rayon is a natural fiber that is processed with a
the same way that like nylon. Well, no. Anyway,
no, it's mixed up into goo and pulled out into threads.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can do a thing on rayon if you want. Leave a message in the comments if you want to hear us do a thing on rayon, because I don't. If you don't want it, I'm not going to bother, because rayon isn't. I mean, rayon is really, really popular in the 1930s and 40s, which is why I own rayon things. But I'm not going to do it if medievalists and 18th century people don't care.
Right.
I won't do it. Anyway, so medievalists and 18th century people, let me tell you a story about linen. Linen is not the summer alternative to wool.
Oh, yes.
This I am passionate about, and I am correct, and you cannot prove me wrong. Because coming up with a couple little pieces of outer garments that are linen does not prove the fact that linen was not typically used for outer garments.
What is the rule? Don't make the rare common.
Don't make the rare common and the common rare. Now, there's the embroidered jacket that I did, not embroidered, drawn work jacket that I did that's linen. There's the embroidered doublet I want to make for you, the white work doublet that's linen. But these are really
high status items.
High status items, and that's why we still have them. Why we have this drawn work jacket that's like, there's almost no threads to it, and it's still entirely intact. The reason we have that is because somebody treated it like it was gold, because it was more expensive to have made than gold.
It did have a whole lot of silver on it.
It did have a whole lot of silver on it. So what you hear over and over again is, I'm going to make a insert name of historical clothing item here out of linen for the summer because I live this place in the place where it's hot, and they say this to me as I'm standing there in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
And it's 102 degrees.
And it's 102 degrees. And I'm like, look.
First of all, do what you want.
Yeah, do what you want. I don't care. I'm not there. I'm not there. And I won't judge you because I don't care. I mean, it's really true that I don't care. But if you want to do things correctly, and here's the thing, it's not just doing things correctly. I once heard a man say, we cannot be more medieval than medieval people were.
True.
We can't be better at being medieval than they were.
It's true.
They know all about being medieval, and insert 18th century or Renaissance or whatever into that sentence. So, they kind of knew what they were doing because this was their daily lives. And don't give me, it was colder then. I mean, it was colder than in some points, but in other parts, it wasn't. There was the Sporer minimum and the Maunder minimum. Go look it up.
But we're talking, climatic levels of difference here.
There were
in the same way that it's different now than it was in 1970 thanks to climate change.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Maunder minimum and the Sporer minimum, known as the Little Ice Ages, but they weren't. It's not the entirety of the period we're talking about.
No.
And so typically linen is underwear and wool is outerwear, also silk, but I'm just making grand generalizations here. People who think that they're going to make the same outer garment out of linen so they will stay cool in the summer events are harming themselves, because linen is not cooler than wool.
Right.
Now, a fine see-through linen is cooler than coat weight wool melton that can stand up on its own.
Yeah.
Duh, but that's not all wool. There are tropical weight wools that I guarantee you are thinner than any linen available on the market.
Oh, God, yeah.
Any linen available on the market. And even gabardine, which isn't quite tropical weight. But I mean, think about what they make men's suits out of. What they make men's suits out of, men's wool suits aren't thick.
No.
And I have actually done experiments where I found a bunch of days at Penzic where, god-awful humidity and terrible heat, and 2 days next to each other in the forecast were the exact same average temperature and the exact same amount of sunlight and the exact same humidity. And I wore wool with linen underwear on one day, and I wore linen with linen underwear on the second day. And every time I did this, I was hot in the linen.
Well, I mean, if you, for me, it's really simple. If it's hot, it's hot.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, like Kass said, let's not descend into hyperbole. And of course, if you're going to put a blanket around yourself, you're going to be hotter. But listen, if you're hot in shorts and a t-shirt, you're going to be hot in linen. You're going to be hot in linen under light wool. You're going to be hot. That's the point. Is you're going to be hot.
Yes.
You just have to decide whether or not you want to deal with it.
And the important thing, and again, we can look at traditional clothing. The important thing is to cover your skin on a hot day. The traditional dress of the Bedouin who live in the Sahara is not a bathing suit.
Right.
Their traditional dress is from the neck to the floor, to the ground, to the wrists.
Right.
And
it's black.
And yeah.
And it's
black
wool,
goat,
isn't
it's
it?
goat hair, yeah. Well, goat hair, not wool, goat hair.
Put a little thing up here to the wool video again.
You have to be precise with language. But, and the reason they don't wear, but they wear that because they're Muslims and that's their culture. Well, they were wearing that before they became Muslims.
Long time.
And the reason they wear, and it also doesn't really touch the body too much. And that's important. Guess what they wear underneath it? They wear linen, or actually they probably wear cotton. They wear cotton vegetable fibers underneath it. Guess what? You sweat and the vegetable fibers get wet.
They saturate, right.
And then any breeze feels like air conditioning blowing on you.
It regulates the evaporation of your perspiration.
Yeah, because if you have linen and your linen gets wet with your sweat and that linen is exposed to the air, your perspiration will evaporate. But if you wear linen under your wool or under your silk, but let's talk wool. You wear linen under your wool. Typically, your sweat doesn't get through the wool.
Right.
It stays in the linen. And then the cooling moisture stays on your skin. And
that's what's important.
And that's what's important.
That's why, me personally, I feel hotter when it's hot outside in shorts and a t-shirt. Than I do
because your perspiration is evaporating.
If I'm wearing even just a cotton shirt like this with a cotton t-shirt underneath it, it regulates how fast my perspiration evaporates.
Yep. The last thing you want to do in very hot weather is allow your perspiration to evaporate too quickly.
Yes.
You want to keep your perspiration on your skin.
It is a waste of the body's moisture.
Yeah, because that's don't give water to the dead. That's crying.
Yeah, it's crying. But still, no, honestly, it's a still suit.
It's a still
suit. Think of it as a still suit, and think of yourself as a Fremen.
Yeah, wear your damn still suit and don't be water fat.
Long live the fighters!
Or we will take your water for the tribe. Yeah, Jahoda.
Yeah. So Anyway, book, not movie.
Bless the maker and his water. Bless the coming and the going of him.
There we go. Anyway.
So that's linen.
So linen is not a substitute.
No.
It's not a summer substitute for wool. And the other thing about using linen for outer clothing, and the reason why I wouldn't do it, and I don't do it, unless I'm replicating something that was originally in linen.
Right.
Is remember we talked about you have to finish all your seams?
Yes.
So you have to finish all your seams.
Right.
So imagine that you're making this thing you're making this thing and it has lots of seams, like a coterie has lots of seams and garments like that. You have to finish every single one of those seams, because if you don't, you're going to throw it in the washing machine and it's going to unravel.
Right.
Whereas if you make it out of wool and you don't finish the seams and you throw it in the washing machine,
Yeah.
the seam allowances actually fall a little bit and stick to each other.
They'll lock
so
themselves,
the more you wash the unfinished wool seams, the stronger it becomes.
Right.
But the more you wash the unfinished linen seams, it falls apart. And why would you put in so much work to finish all those seams? I wouldn't. I'm lazy. Why would you do that?
Right.
Why would you do that?
Why make your life more difficult?
Yeah. So like my drawn work jacket, because there's barely enough stuff to make seams out of, because it's all, we'll put a picture of it, you'll see it. There's a good picture of me showing it from the back where you can see right through it, because it's got big holes in it. To make those seams, I stitched the tiny little bit of linen that was left together. And then I took strips of linen and I bound the seams. And of course, I never ever wash the drawn work jacket because it will come flying apart because it's got big holes in it.
Yeah.
And so,
You certainly aren't going to stick it in the dryer.
yeah, the extra amount of work you have to do to finish all the seams isn't worth it unless, it's something that like a shift or something that you're going to wear all the time.
Yeah.
So, and a matter of fact, I have a pair of linen riding breeches that are from the 1930s, and all of the seams are bound with cotton tape. You have to.
You have to bind it. Yeah.
You have to, because you can't wash it if you don't.
Right.
And so.
And you're going to be washing stuff you're going to wear around horses. You're going to be washing stuff you wear around horses.
Absolutely.
Good.
So yeah.
Because horses are filthy.
Horses aren't filthy. You're filthy.
Well,
you make filth. Horses are lovely. So yeah, that's the story with linen. And like I said, do what you want. But why would you work so hard?
Yeah.
To wear linen outer garments, and and also if you're doing anything near a fire, like we used to run cannon crew, or people who cook. People who cooked at Pensbury Manor were required. To wear at least linen petticoats. Yeah. Even in the summer months, and people would complain, linen in the summer months. And the first time
wool petticoats.
Oh, wool petticoats. Sorry, wool petticoats. Wool petticoats in the summer months, and we have to wear wool in the summer months. Oh, it's so hot. Like the first time a spark flies out of that fire and lands on your petticoat, you are very, very happy you're wearing wool and not linen.
Oh, running guns, same thing.
Running guns, same
thing.
thing.
Running artillery, you're required to wear wool over linen because wool snuffs out embers. Linen, or tow, as the...
tow is the stuff that you don't make into linen cloth.
Hemp rope? Jute rope? Sisal, Cecil, however the heck you pronounce that. This long bast fibers. Guess what you make match cord out of?
That's what it's lin stock is from the linen plants.
You wear wool over, because when an ember flies out of a gun or out of a campfire, I have one of my doublets, one of my 17th century doublets had a hole in the sleeve.
Because it was partially nylon.
Because it was partially nylon.
And that's how we found out.
We found out because I dropped a match cord on it, and the glowing ember kind of stuck. Anyhow, wool will snuff out embers, which makes it safe. Linen will smolder. It probably won't catch fire.
It can catch fire, and that's the problem.
It can. Tow is a very good fire starting. It's something to have in your tinderbox. But anyway, the point is, wool over linen, good. Linen over linen, meh.
Don't do it.
So, if there are any other fabrics or materials or whatever you'd like us to ramble on about for a great deal of time, drop a link in the drop a note in the comments. Let us know, or you can send us an email, info@reconstructinghistory.com. Gets to us. We hope you've liked what we've talked about, our blither. And
even though we tell you what not to do.
Yes. We
do what you want. Honestly, do what you want. I'm just telling you the way it is and what I think is a waste of your precious time, because your time is precious.
We want to save you time.
And ag. I want to save you ag. Oh my God, I want to save you ag.
In the meantime, you can save us ag and help us out a lot
Like, subscribe.
by doing the like, subscribe, ring the little bell down here for notifications. So whenever we upload something new, you'll be alerted to it. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you bearing with us while we blither about historical fabric and clothing and all of that sort of thing. So until next time, have a good